What is up, guys? Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Kevin Crates. This is the channel where we go over to crypto news followed by 5 charts every day. Today we're looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Alice, HBAR, and AXS. And as always, timestamps are down in the description below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn that bell on to catch notifications for all daily uploads. Another green 24 hours in the crypto markets, guys, as Bitcoin continues to battle and claim that 38,000 support resistance level to make a possible push for 40,000. Again, Ethereum, same story, battling that 2,300 resistance level, sliding back down to 2,200 at times, but both of them remaining undeniably bullish for the time being. The entire market reflecting Bitcoin's price action. Everything is just in the green. Even AXS Infinity pushing all-time highs past $53 today, having a bit of a pullback now, but up around 209% this week. AXS Infinity is just unstoppable. We'll be diving into all these charts to take a deeper look at price action. But overall, guys, the market is looking green. Looking at today's news, we have Binance in the headlines. Binance CEO Changpeng Zhao said the world's largest crypto exchange wants to work with regulators to be licensed everywhere. Zhao was quoted saying, "We need to be a licensed financial institution everywhere that we operate." The article goes on to say, if regulators expect Binance to have a headquarters, then Binance will establish regional headquarters around the world. This will give regulators a very easy to understand structure. Zhao was also quoted saying, "We've taken a very strong pivot now. So for the last 4 years, we are a technology startup. From now on, we're going to be a financial institution. I think that mindset is a very strong shift." We also have this article here, what Binance is doing to be more compliant with local regulations. I'm not going to read over every word of this for you guys, but to sum it all up, they'll be taking steps such as limiting leverage for new accounts, as well as limiting withdrawals for accounts that are not verified. They'll be launching a new API tool aimed at helping Binance users to easily keep track of their crypto activities in order to ensure they are fulfilling the reporting requirements laid out by their regulatory bodies. And lastly, they are constantly and actively hiring leadership with regulatory and compliance experience for the company. And if you're not new here, you know we've talked about this a lot, considering the fact that Binance has been under so much regulatory scrutiny over the last few months. But I keep reiterating the fact every time we see these articles that Binance is going nowhere. They will continue to dominate. They are so far ahead in the game as far as cryptocurrency exchanges go, not to mention the success of the Binance Smart Chain. As far as regulations go, yes, there'll be a bit of obstacles along the way, but Binance has the means and they seem committed to complying with regulations. So this is just another example of, as far as Binance goes, they will continue to be number one. And as you guys know, we've been covering the story for the last week or so that we are now just 1 day away from the SEC deadline for regulatory news when it comes to cryptocurrencies. And we did have a bit of an update to that story today with this headline here. Senator Warren, crypto puts financial system in the hands of, quote, shadowy super coders. Senator Warren was quoted saying, "Instead of leaving our financial system at the whims of giant banks, crypto puts the system at the whims of some shadowy, faceless group of super coders and miners, which doesn't sound better to me." And she was also quoted saying, "Regulators need to do their job and step in before it's too late." Yesterday, in a letter to the Treasury Secretary, Warren made an explicit plea for stricter regulations around cryptocurrencies, citing risks from stablecoins, DeFi protocols, and more. I don't have much to say about this. We've already covered this so much on this channel. As far as regulations go, they are part of the game. The bottom line is we are now just 24 hours away from the SEC's cryptocurrency regulation deadline. And it's important we all remember that and keep our eyes on this as it develops, because depending on what those regulations are, may affect price action in the coming 24 to 48 hours. We had Dogecoin back in the headlines. Dogecoin fan offers 10% discount on his house if buyer pays him in Doge. The homeowner was quoted saying, "The decision was pretty obvious. I have a house. I want to sell it. Why not push it to the limit to see if I can sell it for Doge? Because we have to keep using this currency if we're going to get it to the mainstream." And I'm not sure how I feel about this, because every time I see Dogecoin in the news, especially an article like this, it just continues to make cryptocurrency seem like a bit of a joke. But there's no denying that when it comes to meme coins, they have made people ridiculously rich, and Dogecoin has done an excellent job of breaking into mainstream media and opening the average person's eyes to realize that there is more than just Bitcoin out there. And lastly, we had this huge headline today. Shopify will let its users sell NFTs in storefronts. Shopify president Harley Finkelstein tweeted, "If you spent 1 minute on the internet this year, you've seen a lot about NFTs. We are making it easier for our merchants to sell NFTs directly through their store." Finkelstein noted that one of the first sellers to use the feature is the NBA team, the Chicago Bulls. The team is issuing a series of collectibles. The next batch will be up for sale on July 28th. And this is massive news. We always talk about on this channel how NFTs and NFT gaming will be the front door for cryptocurrency mass adoption into the mainstream. However, this does leave me wondering how current NFT platforms like OpenSea are going to cope as mega giants like Shopify and Amazon start stepping into the space, not to mention eBay, which I believe is already selling NFTs as well. So it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on that as it all develops. But overall, this is big news for the cryptocurrency community, not to mention the NFT community. Great to see Shopify getting involved. Looking at Bitcoin's daily chart, let's zoom in here, and Bitcoin is pumping while I'm filming this. Price action is right now 393, and look at how much of this body this new candle has taken out in terms of the wick here. If we turn on our notes from last time, jump over to the 4-hour chart, you can see here we did talk about a pullback to this price range of around 364, 365 on the baseline, which did hit, but I did talk about the fact that if Bitcoin could get back above 381, that is a very bullish setup, and that is what we are seeing with price action at the moment. As it heads up to this range, it's already getting a bit of resistance. You can see that wick down, but price action still looks good, and it's important to be very careful because Bitcoin is in coin toss region, and I know a lot of you have a bit of a short bias, including myself after the last 2-3 months, but it's important to shake that out of your system because the market could change in the blink of an eye, and at the moment, Bitcoin is legitimately smack in the middle of a coin toss, in my opinion, where prices are either going to trend back up or start trending back down. Let's just jump back over to the 1-day chart. Looking at the 1-day chart, it's very simple what could happen here. Even if prices trend back down, if it can manage to get above this 40K region, it's kind of going to cheat the system as far as it goes with the Kumo cloud because it will have an opportunity to get out of the Kumo cloud at a lower price range, build support around 397, and possibly make a push for these higher price targets. Where 4.3, we talked about that range being very important as far as the range that Bitcoin has been in since the May 19th crash. It's really got to get above 4.2, 4.3 to kind of have a legitimate push out of this range that we've been stuck in for all these months. But this is still a very decent setup, and there is no denying that Bitcoin is looking bullish. But in terms of price action, the SEC stuff coming out tomorrow could affect that. And if we turn off all these candles, or if we turn off all these notes, this is a lot of green candles in a row. And at some point, there's going to have to be some kind of correction for this, but much of an aggressive move up in price, just like there would be as far as an aggressive move down in price. The question is, when is that going to start? Because currently Bitcoin on the daily is showing very little signs of downward pressure. So all we can do for now is look at a couple of different scenarios, one being the breakout scenario, which we just discussed. If it can manage to maintain support above this moving average, stay above 385, even around 381 is okay. Really 38 is going to be that target that you want to see price action stay above, and it hangs around there for the next day or so. It does have the opportunity to get above 40K, build support, and possibly push for 43K, which would be a very legitimately bullish move for Bitcoin. Now let's jump over to the 4-hour chart and talk about possible pullbacks. So looking at the 4-hour chart, you can see here it is riding above the conversion line, and that is bullish, not to mention the stochastic RSI being so low on the 4-hour. Is it low on the 1 hour? It's kind of high on the 1 hour, so we might see a bit of a pullback finally as far as price action goes. So the pullback price now would be a little bit higher, but still around 365, but I imagine that baseline might start to kind of trend up in price, but somewhere around 365, 367 is where you might see Bitcoin do a bit of a pullback. From there, if we jump over to the 1-hour chart, so the 1-hour chart gives us a bit of a better, clear picture as far as a pullback goes. Really, the support now is around, 381, which we just talked about, 381, 385, 377. So somewhere around 38 is going to be a very crucial support on this current push. Stochastic RSI does have room to pump, and it still looks decent, but we are seeing the conversion and baseline attempt to curve. If I zoom in all the way here, you can see there was almost a bit of a cross right around here, but the conversion line is now back above the baseline, so it still looks decent. So I'd watch for a pullback. If it does manage to break below 381, then you would find a pullback in this range here, which would start to be a bit of a sign that Bitcoin might be slowing down around 372. So 371 is also a price target we talked about yesterday. And this is why I keep saying Bitcoin isn't just ping-ponging within the region of either heading back up or heading back down. Dropping to the low 36s is a nice, decent sign that, okay, Bitcoin might be losing a bit of steam on this pump, but staying above 371 kind of puts it smack in the middle. And when it pushes above 381, then it's back in kind of bullish territory as far as price action goes. So as far as this goes, and I keep reiterating the fact that Bitcoin is pretty much in a coin toss territory, and the higher into the 3.8s and 3.9s it pushes, the more bullish the scenario. As long as it hangs around 371, it's pretty much neutral. And as it dips below 371 towards 365, that is where we do see a bit of a sign of a pullback. And I'd imagine as we see this moving average come up here on the 1 hour. So if we do see a legitimate pullback, I would kind of look for this price target here of around 359. So if Bitcoin pulls down to around 36, 359, that could be a sign that it is losing a bit of steam. And if it dips below 359 or 36, that would also be a sign that Bitcoin might be headed back down in price action. But for now, as far as the time is that I'm filming this, Bitcoin looks like it's pumping and everything still looks decent to go. And if we jump back to the 1-day chart here, so looking at Bitcoin's daily chart, let's turn off all the notes and zoom in and talk about what we're looking at here. This is still a very bullish setup. The higher above this moving average price stays, which is around 385, and if it closes above there and this next candle starts forming here, if we turn the notes back on, Bitcoin is a shot to get above 40K, kind of cheat the system, make a push for this 43.1 range and then claim 43.2, and then boom, it's out of this range that it's been in for months. However, if this candle starts to push down in price towards 371, which up until now has remained a neutral area, that would give us these two candles next to each other with these long wicks down, indicating that price action is probably going to head down in the next day or so. In that scenario, we can start to keep an eye out for these lower price targets of around 361 to 359. If it hits those price targets, it still has the opportunity to kind of pull back down here towards the conversion line and baseline, which was that resistance level that it just blew past 3.5, which it should come back and test in my opinion. But this candle still looks okay. It all depends on how it closes. It's managing to stay above that moving average and take out a lot of this wick. But as far as price targets go, you're going to want to see it close below 385 to show a bit of a bearish sentiment. But the higher above 385 it is, the more bullish of an opportunity it has to push towards 40K tomorrow. But then again, we do have the SEC regulation news coming out tomorrow, which may affect price action. As far as the pullback goes, you're going to want to watch this area of around 351 to 359. 361 would be my first target on a pullback, but it still, in my opinion, should pull back down to that 3.5 target, that resistance level that it just blew past and never really tested. But this is undeniable that this is the most bullish looking Bitcoin has been in months and the most legitimate shot it has to get above the Kumo cloud, get into a decently bullish territory, not exactly bullish because it still is within this range, but this would give it a shot to reclaim that 43.2, get up to 44, get out of this range it's been in since May 19th and push up in price. So as far as price targets go, it's got to stay above that 385 price range to remain bullish. The lower it comes down, the longer that wick is going to be. And the longer these two wicks are next to each other, the more indication we have that price action may be trending back down. So as far as price targets go, you're going to want to watch that 385 range. It's currently pushing around 39, so I kind of watch for that 40 range as a big one, because if it managed to get about outside of 40, not so much today, but on tomorrow's candle, that's a very decently bullish setup. But as far as pullbacks go, if Bitcoin starts to push down in price on today's close, even if it closes around 381, that's still a bit of a decently long wick pushing down next to this one. So as far as a pullback goes, I'd still watch for that range around 361 to 359. 365 would be my first target to play it safe, but I'd still watch for around 359 to 361 and then possibly 35 from there. But it really all depends on today's close. And for now, Bitcoin is kind of pumping up in price. So if it manages to stay above 385, I'd watch for 40 in the next day or so. But if it closes below 385, even around 381, I'd start to watch for the pullback towards 365 and then 361 to 359. Looking at Ethereum's daily chart, if we zoom in here, we're not going to spend too much time on Ethereum because Ethereum is not leading this pump, surprisingly. I would have thought that leading into the London hard fork, which is just a few days away now at this point, Ethereum would have been leading this pump, but it's not. You see the conversion line and baseline well below the Kumo cloud, unlike Bitcoin, which is way up here. And if we jump over to the 4-hour chart, yes, the stochastic RSI is nice and low, but price action is below the conversion line, unlike Bitcoin that's above the conversion line. If we turn on the notes from last time, you can see here, we talked about 2200 being a pullback price. Ethereum is managing to stay above there, which is still a decent price range for it to possibly push back up in price. If there is more of an aggressive pullback, I'd watch for this price range of around 2120, and then where I would get an indication that, all right, Ethereum is probably losing steam, which would be around 2070. And if we jump to the daily chart, you can see that kind of lines up because 2070 is right around, let me turn the notes off, right around this conversion line and baseline, right below the Kumo cloud. So if we turn on our notes here, as far as price targets go, it's It's pretty straightforward with Ethereum. Ethereum's got to get back above 2,400. Really, it's got to get above 2,300, which is not showing the same level of bullish momentum that Bitcoin is showing, which again shows that this is a Bitcoin-led pump. Leading into the London hard fork, that could change, but for the time being, Ethereum is a little bit behind Bitcoin as far as momentum goes in this pump. But you want to see it get above 2,300, build a support, and then anything above 2,500 is when Ethereum is off to the races. But for the time being, I kind of keep my eye on that pullback price of around 2120 and then possibly even 2070 from there. And then the more aggressive of a pullback, I'd watch for that 200 EMA, which is just around 2,000 to 1950. That is where Ethereum likes to pull back to. But as far as price targets go for the time being, you want to see it get back above 2,300, build support, and make a legitimate push, not just for the high of around 2,400, but above 2,500 is where Ethereum is a legit shot of getting bullish. But for the time being, I keep my eye on that 2,300 price range for it to get above there, build a decent support. But as far as a pullback, I keep my eye on that 2,120 range to start. But the real signal that Ethereum is losing steam is going to be around 2070. Looking at Alice's daily chart, let's zoom in here, turn on our notes from last time. The reason I want to revisit Alice is because look at this daily candle, and we talked about the fact that if Alice can get above 13.2, it does have a legitimate shot to push towards 16.5. And if we jump over to the 4-hour chart, you can see not only are the conversion line and baseline nice and far apart, it's managing to build support above 13.2, and if it can close above there today, it may have a shot to push towards 16.5 on the daily chart in the next day or so. But as far as pullbacks go, if it can't maintain that support around 13.2, I'd watch for a first pullback towards 11.5. It would still be bullish in that scenario, but 11.5 may be tested, and from there I kind of keep my eye on around 10.2. And if 10.2 is lost, it's not terrible until it drops below. Let's go back to the daily chart. Before it drops below 8.4 would be a sign that Alice has kind of lost steam and fallen back into the Kumo cloud, but this still looks like a very bullish setup. So my price targets for the time being for Alice, if it can maintain support above 13.2, I'd watch for the push towards 16.5. But if it loses this 13.2 support, I keep my eye on around 11.5, 11.7 as a pullback target, and below that I keep my eye on 10.2. Looking at HBAR's daily chart, let's zoom in here. You can see that HBAR has managed to push into the Kumo cloud, hanging above those moving averages as well. A bit of downward resistance now, but if we turn on our notes from before, jump over to the 4-hour chart. As far as price action goes for HBAR, I keep my eye on these pullbacks around 19, which it already has hit. Below that, I keep my eye on around 18. On the 1-day chart, some of these lower price targets of around 16 is where HBAR likes to hang out. The extreme end is around 13, 14. It's not very low, and I would not expect HBAR to get back there. But the reason I want to revisit HBAR is because it's managed to push into the Kumo cloud. If it can build support around 21, it does have the opportunity to push for around 24. Now, that's not a huge leap in price, and above 24 would give HBAR a decently bullish opportunity out here. I'd be surprised to see that happen, but it's definitely something I'll be keeping my eye on. So if it can manage to build support above 21, I'd be very interested to see if HBAR could push towards 24 and possibly even higher from there. However, if it does start to lose steam, I keep my eye on these pullback targets, which it's already hit around 19. So the next one would be around 18. And then if we go back to the 1-day chart, zoom in here, as far as price targets go, I keep my eye on that pullback towards 16.5 to 17 cents for HBAR. But if it can manage to get above 21, I'd be very interested to see if it can get to 24. So for price targets for the time being for HBAR, I'm watching that 21 resistance and I'm watching that 17 support. Looking at AXS's daily chart, we've been following this here pretty much daily for weeks now, since it was around $10 or $11 from what I remember. As far as price action goes, let's jump over to the 4-hour chart and look at some price targets. You can see here on the 4-hour, this is still a very bullish setup. If we turn off these notes, it's hanging above the conversion line. All the moving averages are nice and lined up. Baseline is down here. Kumo clouds way out here. The price action still looks good. Stochastic RSI is a bit high on the 4-hour. Let's jump to the 1-hour chart. It's nice and low. This is still not terrible. Conversion line and baseline are headed together, but this still looks decent. I would not be surprised to see AXS revisit its all-time highs soon, but a pullback at some point is going to be necessary. But as far as this goes, it still looks decent. So for the price targets I keep my eye out for is around 41 would be on the low end of a pullback down to this baseline. Above that, as long as it manages to stay above 44, AXS is still in a very bullish setup. As long as price action stays above this target of around 44, AXS could keep pumping. But if it dips below that, even 41, at least on the 4 hour, would give me some indication the price action is losing a bit of steam, but I'd be surprised to see AXS go anywhere below 37. Even if it was to visit this area of around 35, 37, that would not be terrible, but for the time being, I don't think it's going to go back down as low as 35. So I keep my eye on this 35 price target, and from there, if AXS is really having a legit pullback, it pull back down to around 31, 32, which is still bullish. If AXS comes back on the daily chart back down to 31, 32, that would only be right around here, which also makes sense with the conversion line here. So if AXS does a legit pullback, if it's going to lose a lot of steam off this push finally, which has to happen at some point, because look how aggressive this move up has been. I kind of watch for this price target of around 31. If it can manage to stay above 31 on the daily, AXS is still in a bullish zone. If it dips anywhere below 29, I kind of start to look out for a more aggressive pullback in price, but I don't think that's going to happen with AXS. So price targets for the time being, you want to watch that price target of around 40 to on the low end. From 44 is still bullish. 37 is a possibility, and on the daily chart, I keep my eye out for a large pullback towards this price target here of around $33, and on the lowest end, I keep my eye out for around $30. All right, folks, that's all for today. If there's any charts we want to look at in the future, leave it down in the comments below. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and turn that bell on to catch notifications for all daily videos. If you're not following me on Twitter, KevinCrates_ on Twitter. I'm extremely active on there. Anytime you tweet at me, I will always tweet back at you. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. I'm out.